And of course, we will also take you to the United States of America, the U.S. They are voting to decide between Kamala and, of course, Donald Trump. We have details for you as we progress on the polls this afternoon. My name is Elton Brobe. Now, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfrey Adame, says Ghana's economy could have collapsed if some arbitration challenges against the state succeeded. Speaking at the first ever public sector lawyers conference in Accra, Godfrey Adame explained that had it not been for the spirited defense put up by his office, the state could have been paying in excess of $9 billion in international arbitral awards with about 13 trillion cedis in local action filed against the state.
Certain glaring dangers that I think arbitration portends for Ghana and the developing world, which seem to be overlooked. Whilst arbitration is started to assure neutrality, privacy, and efficiency in the adjudication of disputes, arbitral claims filed against the government, if not diligently managed, have the tendency to collapse the entire Ghanaian economy. A single arbitral claim, if successful, can bring the economy of a developing country as Ghana to its knees. In point of fact, over the past 4 years, the value of arbitral claims against the Republic has been in excess of $9 billion. And I cite a few to illustrate the point. The financial claim by ENI Vitor against Ghana, which was initially $7 billion and subsequently reduced to $915 million after challenge in the course of proceedings by Ghana. In fact, any of these amounts, $7 billion or $950 million, could have collapsed the Ghanaian economy. By the grace of God, this financial claim was recently dismissed in its entirety by the International Arbitral Tribunal. Cassius Banning's Limited's claim against the government of Ghana has a value of about $300 million. GCNet's arbitral claim involves a claim of over 4 billion Ghana cedis, the equivalent of about $250 million. The recently filed Eland arbitration claim against the government of Ghana also involves a claim of over $320 million. These are just a sample of a few of the international arbitration claims against Ghana. Domestically, there have been claims in Ghana in excess of over 15 trillion Ghana cedis, successfully defended by the Office of Attorney General against the state.
Again, Godfrey Adame says he has put before cabinet documents to ensure that the Contract Act is amended to make Ghana the seat of arbitration in the sub-region.
The laws governing arbitration and the institution of civil claims against the state, whilst taking a critical look at contracting and contract management on behalf of the state. Mr. President, as I recently noted at the African Regional Forum at the International Bar Association Conference held in Mexico City, Mexico, we cannot discount the prejudice Ghana and the whole of Africa in general often suffers in international arbitration fora. It is quite curious that in some instances, companies which fail to make out any claim in our domestic courts succeed in extremely huge international arbitration actions, sometimes mounted on the back of contracts which have failed to receive the relevant statutory and constitutional approvals of the countries in which they operate. This phenomenon is not because of a weakness of the judicial systems of African countries, or indeed Ghana's, but simply because of the nature of international arbitration, particularly the secrecy of proceedings, flexibility of rules, and the finality or non-appealability of awards, which I've just referred to. It should not be misconstrued as saying that Ghana or any African nation should shy away from international arbitration. Far from that. However, the vulnerability of arbitration to abuse and fraud highlights the necessity for more robust safeguards in commercial disputes involving state parties, where the hard purse of the nation is at stake. We must boost the integrity of our legal systems by setting up fair and efficient mechanisms for commercial dispute adjudication and strengthening the systems for the conduct of arbitration in our respective countries. But I still recognize that there's a need to make further reform to the pursuit of arbitration against the state. Thus, I recently presented to Cabinet a proposed amendment to the State Property and Contract Act of 1960 to compel all contracts involving the state and its agencies as parties to not only stipulate Ghana law as a governing law, but also to have Ghana as a seat of arbitration, and with the ADR Center in Ghana being the venue for the arbitration.
Well, President Akufo-Addo says he is committed to ensuring lawyers in the public sector are well-resourced to deliver on their responsibilities.
We must reform the laws governing arbitration and the institution of civil claims against the state, whilst taking a critical look at contracting and contract management on behalf of the state. Mr. President, as I recently noted at the African Regional Forum at the International Bar Association Conference held in Mexico City, Mexico, we cannot discount the prejudice Ghana and the whole of Africa in general often suffers in international arbitration fora.
Well, we are still on the pause here on Joy News. It's Tuesday, and of course, let's talk about some labor matters, because the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is accusing the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOGSAG, of sidestepping its authority by presenting demands for a new salary structure directly to the senior presidential advisor. This move, according to the Fair Wages, undermines the Commission official mandates and complicates efforts to resolve CLOGSAG grievances ahead of a nationwide strike scheduled for Thursday, November 7, 2024. Now, whilst urging CLOGSAG to reconsider the planned action, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is calling on the association to return to the formal negotiation process. We are joined in the studio, I'm privileged to say, by the Chief Executive Officer of Fair Wages, Benjamin Arthur, in the studio. Mr. Arthur, you're welcome to the pause on Joy News.
Thank you.
And at this time of the year, and of course, especially on our political calendar, there are certain jobs I don't envy, and yours is one of them. I can imagine the pressure on you to meet the demands of almost every public sector worker in the country.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to greet our viewers. Obviously, God knows that He's giving me the capacity to occupy this office. That's why He worked through the various channels to get me there. I see it as a national service.
Right.
So this is not the time to chicken out. This is the time to stand to be counted among those who have also made their impact, in this nation. So for us, it's work that we need to commit ourselves to. If I can go ahead to,
of course,
to speak to
the issues that we are here,
our stakeholders,
right? Okay,
which is organized labor, and in this case, Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana. Before I came to office in 2022, they had presented a petition to the president, which was referred to the senior minister then, who is now the senior presidential advisor.
Mr. Yawosa Fumafu.
Yes, so when I came to office, there was a committee set up, and in fact, I must commend him for his leadership role in this matter. It was a very tough issue. But together with my sector minister, they were able to, bring every party on board. Eventually, that culminated in an agreement that was signed between government and CLOGSAG that gave them some certain allowances, but deferred their demand for a new salary structure for further scrutiny and study.
Right.
So that was done.
So this negotiation started in 2020?
No, 2020. That was when the issue of a new salary structure came.
Right.
But that exactly was not the day. 2011, CLOGSAG had actually wanted to opt out of the single spine salary structure, and actually went to court, took the National Labour Commission and Fair Wages to court. And unfortunately for them, they were the plaintiffs. They lost the case, and that is the case entitled Civil and Local Government Staff Association versus the National Labour Commission, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Of course, the Attorney General was roping. That is suit number HRCM 76/11. And the judgment was that the base pay, as per the single span pay policy, must continue to be negotiated jointly by organized labor, which has agreed to an MOU for a collective bargaining.
Right.
But government also saw the need that, looking at the structure of CLOGSAG, there was a need to do some review, because as of the time the job evaluation was done, it's been about 14 years.
Right.
Some job requirements and dynamics at work had been transformed. So there was a need for us to equally...
new negotiations.
Not negotiations, but to look at the structure. I've already said that the negotiation for base pay is done with organized labor, which means that it's not just a single labor union.
Right.
It's organized labor, for all of us to do. So government saw the need. Then they came back to say that government has not delivered on its promise of giving them a new salary structure. But government, through its commitment, agreed that in the interim, let's give you some support, which had been given to them and they're enjoying it. But we also agreed that whatever the outcome, it has to be of effect from January 2025. So on the 30th of October, government indeed, by its commitment, submitted the proposed structure that it had worked on to them. At the meeting, what they demanded was that government should put it into writing.
Of course, that is the normal thing to be done.
That was done. But of course, the entity that is in charge of developing salary structure is actually Fair Wages. So the government team agreed that Fair Wages should write to communicate
the outcome of the meeting.
The government's offer, which was done. Instead of getting response from our colleagues, we have not heard from them. The only thing that we had gotten was a notice to go on strike.
You are telling us that you have presented government position to them.
Yes,
they are yet to reply to
it. It was not just Fair Wages and CLOGSAG. Ministry of Finance, our ministry was represented. There is all of us at that meeting.
And CLOGSAG was part of this meeting. Their demand was that put it in writing.
Yes, and that has been done and communicated to them. But instead of getting the feedback, all we heard was that they are going ahead to really embark on a strike on Thursday. And we thought that that is not the way to go. But of course, we could also anticipate. Because you see...
I just wanted to quote exactly what they said in this in this press statement that they issued to the public. They say that due to government's delay in finalizing a new salary structure, both parties agreed on. According to the statement, the government inability to finalize the new salary structure makes the January 1, 2025 implementation date unrealistic. And you are saying that you have gone past it.
Sorry for interrupting you. What do you mean by unrealistic? When somebody says unrealistic, I'm coming. The employer in charge of developing a salary structure, per your request that, can you take a second look at our structure? That has been done. The impact and the rest has been measured and is being communicated to you. All the details have been shared with you. As of 30th October, don't forget that the discussion had been ongoing. The 30th October was when government was very firm that this is the offer, and that was given. Between 30th of October and effective date for implementation, which is January 1. Where is the delay? And it takes two to tango.
They claim that
we've given you an offer. We've shown you all that government is capable of doing. If you want to be committed, what you do is that you say, yes, I agree. If you said you agreed to it, there's no delay.
Their point is that this has not been finalized. I don't know what they mean by this. Unfortunately, we wanted them to be on the show. We are yet to get through to them. But the claim they make here is that, I mean, whatever deal you have between them has not been finalized. And they look at from now to January 1 and say that it is impossible to have the finalization take off. The reason why...
Nobody can say that government is not capable of doing that. Let's be very serious in this country. When in 2022, we met and concluded on COLA. I don't know if you remember this story very well.
The cost of living, the cost of living allowance.
It was done just before validation for July, but it was paid. And we had only 5 days, just 5 days. Government was able to do all the calculations and to do that. Look at the entire public sector. That was done. How then can you conclude that between October and January 1, that is not possible?
So, Ms. Atta, you are saying that...
It is possible.
You are saying as far as Fair Wages is concerned, everything has been done. You finalized everything.
Has been done.
You have nothing more to discuss.
No, they ask us to put it into writing. That has been done. If you disagree with government's offer or its position, what is of importance is to communicate your position, to say that we do not want to go this way or we have accepted it. But when you don't write and you also don't ask us to engage further, and all that you could afford to do is to write and tell your members that they should take away their productivity and still demand their pay, that is most unfair.
So you say
and in our view, we thought that there's a need for an intervention. So we have petitioned National Labour Commission to intervene in this matter, and hopefully tomorrow they have called all of us to appear before them. I'm sure sanity will prevail after the National Labour Commission has intervened in this matter.
So as far as you are concerned, they are acting in bad faith?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. For me, I need to be strong on this. It's a show of bad faith, simply because we are at the table, and the labor laws do not permit you to just go on strike because you feel that you are entitled to a strike. The labor law does not allow that. It is when the other party has failed to act. But whilst we were at the table, they served the notice. The notice was served before even the 30th. The notice was served. Whilst we were at the table, you cannot put my hands behind me and say that I should run at a speed like the Olympic guys. That is very unfair. So for us to have a congenial atmosphere, for the JoJo, for us to have a dialogue, which is the only way out in this matter. No matter how long you want to go on strike, we will have to come back to the table to engage. So you don't do that and say that you want to put pressure on government to deliver. When you say delay, if you believe that government can give you what it promises to give, you must equally trust government, and not to say that you anticipate a delay. Your anticipation of a delay does not culminate in your response of a strike.
But my difficulty here is, why would CLOGSAG announce a strike action when you've written to them that this is the package government have for you? They will not respond to your letter, but will communicate to the media that we are embarking on a strike action. Is something not amiss here?
Well, you may have to look out for that. I do not speak for CLOGSAG, so I am not able to tell exactly what has been on their minds for the actions that they have taken. But I speak for the employer in this matter, and to say that government has demonstrated immense commitment. Let me tell you one thing government did.
Tell me about it.
Whilst you are waiting, whilst you are waiting for the adjustment to be done, take the 18%, continue to enjoy it. And government has given, for which other unions are very peeved that it appears that we are discriminatory against them. You are enjoying all these things, and you say that government cannot deliver. When we negotiated and decided that take this interim measure, it was paid.
Right.
And you are enjoying it. How then? That conclusion that you anticipate that there will be a delay, and therefore the response to your delay is a strike. For me, it doesn't gel. If you really want to show your commitment, your response to the delay is to join the party who is a partner with you at the workplace to work together to remove the obstacles. And that is how partners, social partners at the workplace ought to act.
Are you able to walk us through the package government has presented to them? I'm
not able to share that one on air.
But
I'm not able to.
What is the guarantee that this will be finalized and implemented on January 1, 2025?
No, for government, communicated, we set up a subcommittee. The subcommittee was working and was reporting to everybody. So the final decision from government's point of view was what was communicated to them. So if they had not served their notice and they said, oh, Jack, let's move, I am sure in the next 1 week or so, the implementation or the communication for its implementation in January would have been done. Because we have engaged adequately on this matter. We have engaged adequately on this matter. So we do not even anticipate any delay that has been mentioned anywhere.
And in your press statement that you issued today, you also pointed out the fact that they went behind you to negotiate with the office of the former senior minister. Something you think that undermines the authority of the Fair Wages.
That's not precisely our intent. Maybe the way you have interpreted it. You know, in their communique to the media, they mentioned that they don't want to have anything to do with the chief executive. And by the chief executive, they mentioned my name, Benjamin Arthur.
Right.
And for me, we don't take kindly to that because it's been a strategy, an age-old strategy that they have adopted for all this while. I mentioned one to you when the single span was being implemented. They did not want to deal with the joint negotiation. They didn't want to deal with fair wages. They took the matter to court, but unfortunately, it was not in their favor. The ruling didn't go in their favor. The ruling was essentially that, yes, you have the right to demand what you want to demand. You have the right to form your own association. There's a freedom of association. But it is not absolute. It is interpreted in the national interest and in the rights and freedoms of the others. So they were not allowed to opt out and to say that they alone should be able to appear separately and just negotiate on their base pay. It has to be the joint one. So there was some peace. But they've noticed that with the presence of fair wages and with this ruling in mind,
right,
which we do not want to be cited for contempt of court, they've noticed that when fair wages is involved, it is not likely that they will be able to opt out of the single span. And for me, the strategy from them has been that let us take away fair wages. So at the end of the day, the strategy was basically let's look around and see how best we can do without the fair wages. But this is not the first time that they've written concerning me. The last one that I noticed was that they were asking the president to remove the fair wages board. What was the reason? Nobody cited any reason. You cannot cite me for incompetence. You will not cite me for dishonesty.
Exactly. You represent fair wages as a body. They want to personalize it.
That is where I don't know the game plan, because if you want to attack the individual, it means that you are not concerned about the conditions of service that you are really demanding, because that has been addressed.
Right.
If it's not been addressed adequately in your view, then speak to it. Don't go and attack individuals and say that you want this individual removed, when you have also demonstrated that you don't want to deal with the institution that the individual represents. But unfortunately, in this country, there's one institution by mandate that must deal with public service pay,
right,
and especially for those
that is the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission.
Exactly. So when you want to take any steps and you want to leave out fair wages, what it means that you have other objectives rather than the fair way of going
about
in terms of engaging.
So Mr. Arthur, I'm interested, beyond the 2011 judgment, which got them to still come under fair wages, in terms of negotiating their salary structure, you think that there's no bad blood between you and CLOGSAG to the extent that they always want to single you out as a stumbling block in addressing the issues that they have?
Oh, no. In fact, when you look at the leaders, we are friends. I have nothing against any single individual in any of the unions. You can't even count one person because it's not my nature. But I stick to the principles. You see, we are a team. When we say the government team, it's not only fair wages.
Right.
We will take mandates from
the employment ministry.
No, we take financial mandate from the Ministry of Finance. We are also under the employment ministry. So in all this engagement, in fact, the government engagement with CLOGSAG has not been led by fair wages. I must be very sincere. It's never been led by fair wages. It's always been under the auspices of the senior presidential advisor. But because they will not be able to leave out the employment ministry and they will not be able to leave out fair wages out of the picture, we all meet as government because in Chi, I say Bakufo and Chiridamfo.
Right.
What is of essence is the well-being of the employer, the employee, how we can make their conditions better. It's not about who is who and who is who. So all of us working together gives us the best of results. And we have always gone that way. But when you decide that you want to take away the very institution that is the principal signatory to this agreement for which we have been enjoying, when we gave the government machinery support, why did they not come out to say that they don't want to work with fair wages, they don't want to work with the chief executive of fair wages? We have done base pay negotiations.
So this show of strike, were you put on notice or you heard it in the media?
Well, the first notice to strike, we were not in copy. But of course, you know, we live
in an environment where
in a
these
space where
what about this one?
Activity.
What about this one that they
we're
not copied. You were not copied.
We're not copied.
But beyond the fact that you've
but the notice by law
right
actually is directed to the National Labour
Commission. You say
so
that
I will not fault them for not
doing that. But has there been any back channel discussion beyond the fact that there are official issues that must be addressed? Have you been in touch with CLOGSAG? I mean, you say that you meet them at the Labour Commission, hopefully tomorrow. I'm saying that, has it been behind the scenes talk?
You know, it's not everything that you can put on air. But in this field that we find ourselves, we do that under the atmosphere of cordiality. You cannot be antagonistic and make progress. So all of us, we are like a family. You see, sometimes there are times that people have labeled me in person and some of my directors as if we are speaking for organized labor when the government meets. There are times other unions have come to accuse me that I am working for CLOGSAG because they think that some decisions that we took in certain areas is allowing CLOGSAG to have more members than them. We have had all these accusations. There are times when they also meet you, they think that you are not working for them. But what you need to do as the man in charge of fair wages is basically to be very fair, firm and principled.
All right.
And that is what I have always been.
So tomorrow you hope that the Labour Commission will address this matter?
Oh, definitely. That's why we have asked for their intervention. And we were also asking them to do so simply because we have the National Labour Commission, knowing very well that in the relationship at work, there are times that it could be very challenging, it could be difficult. That's why National Labour Commission is there to intervene. So even if you have grievances of a delay and the rest, we want it reported to National Labour Commission
for them to
and say that
and then pronounce on it.
And say that intervene. The first notice to National Labour Commission in good faith should not be a threat of strike. It should be to call them to intervene that, look, the employer is delaying in this. This has not been done to our taste. We want you to intervene. That is industrial relation. When that is not done, then you could have your reason. Let me add this before we get off here.
Because there are a few things we want to resolve.
The essence of strike is not to disable the country and its operations.
But it is also to draw attention to their plight.
Exactly, that is the essence of strike. So even before you embark on the strike, when an intervention has been instituted by the employer giving you the offer, and you say, I am not responding to it, but my response is to lay down my tools, then obviously we need to re-examine the situation again.
All right, so the Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Benjamin Arthur, is my guest in this. So let me put it out that we tried to bring in representatives from CLOGSAG. They are unable, they are not ready to respond to this matter as of now. They say that at appropriate time, their head will respond to these issues. But according to Mr. Arthur, they hope that the Labour Commission will intervene in this matter, hopefully at a meeting tomorrow. Now, I'm interested in point 4 of your press statement. And it says that it is very important to know that government has been exploring alternative ways of addressing the demand for a new salary structure by CLOGSAG, which will not injure the existing pay policy, bearing in mind that the principles governing the negotiation of base pay and a high court ruling. I'm not interested in the court ruling. I'm interested in the salary structure. What you are interested in is the base, the single span pay policy. Exactly. What it says. Exactly. And in the midst of so many demands, taking into consideration what the economy can afford, the question really is the salary structure, is what we have capable of meeting all the demands that are coming to you?
Obviously not. You and I live in this country and we know that the finances of government, especially in revenue mobilization, vis-a-vis the demands for public sector workers, is very heavy on government. In the entire Africa, we are the only country that uses about 50% of its tax revenue to pay less than 1 million public sector workers.
That has even come down. Previously, it was around almost 70%, if you like.
54, 56.
Right. So now it's coming to 50%.
So when you look at it, and you are in the helm of affairs of this country, you want to ask yourself, what must you do? Do we have to give everything that is in the kitty to the pockets of our gallant workers?
1 million of them.
Less than 1 million. Just about 870,000 workers in the public sector.
Even as the Ghana Statistical Service say that 80% or more earn somewhere around 2,000 Ghana cedis a month.
So you want to, you see, it is indexed to the revenue, the ability to pay. It's not as if government has hired people and is not looking after them well. That's not the case. I've mentioned that when you have about 50% of your tax revenue going to pay for public sector workers, how much would you be left to build hospitals for the same group of people when they are sick? How are you going to look at their welfare? How do you build roads? Mind you, this country is made up of over 30 million people. So how do you also ensure that when our infrastructure is in deficit, you're able to bring in, resolve the issues? So you have multiple issues to resolve. So we have tried as much as possible to do this within the capacity of government. Ghana, again, was the only country that during COVID time never laid off any single worker. Throughout the challenges, people were being paid. Some people didn't have even the opportunity to report to work, to say that they even contributed at some point in time. And yet, this nation absorbed the burden. Now, we have subscribed to an IMF program. There are measures. So everybody needs to be measured in what they demand. But of course, it's a political season. And
the demands are coming.
It's been a trend over the years that when it is time for elections, Charlie man, let's ask for whatever we may. Perhaps because of the elections, our demands should be met. But what I'm saying is that if we go that way, we, all of us as citizens, suffer. Because when you have your colleague in public sector demanding some amount of money that government cannot afford, you must all know that government is coming back to all of us to collect that amount of money
and then pay them.
From oh yes, because we pay wages and salaries with our taxes.
But this underwent some kind of a review. I'm wondering the outcome of it. The salary structure, the fair wages and salaries, the salary structure. We understand CLOGSAG. Exactly. No. I understand that the entire process was undertaken through some kind of a review.
No, the review is ongoing. Government, together with organized labor in 2022, instituted a committee under the auspices of the National Tripartite Committee, under the chairmanship of my Honorable Minister for Employment, Honorable Ignatius Bafowa. So the committee did some work, which my understanding is that is ongoing, because
some labor unions say that it's concluded, but they are yet to be told the outcome.
No, it's not being concluded. When you say it's concluded, then eventually when the final validation is done, it goes back to cabinet, and there's a cabinet white paper on the policy,
right?
Or there's a new or reviewed pay policy for implementation. Then you can say that it's concluded.
So where is it now?
For us,
at what stage is it now?
I'm saying that the committee concluded the first phase of their work, and I'm sure maybe in the coming days, the committee will be able to meet to continue its work. It's not under fair wages chairmanship. We are not for policy.
Right.
We are for implementation. So I'm sure when the policy makers are able to finally bring us a new or a reviewed pay policy, we'll be glad to implement it. We admit at fair wages that it is time that we get the pay policy reviewed. It's been almost 14 years since its implementation. Of course, we've also done nationwide payroll monitoring.
But I was coming to that.
Yes, we've equally come to terms with some methods and some definitions and ways and means that things have been done that we believe that as implementers, it needs to be reviewed. And we've made our recommendations to the committee and the rest. I'm sure, I'm very optimistic that come what may, that job will be concluded, because we do not have disagreement on this. All of us, both government and organized labor,
all of them are looking forward to the final document.
No, we all agree that it needs some review.
Of course.
And that's where we put our shoulders to the wheel to ensure that that will come out. We've been to a lot of institutions to get their inputs written to a number of institutions, engage groups, organized labor, we've engaged police, we've engaged the security services. In fact, it's been a very wonderful work. I'm sure we just need some...
When are we likely to have it done?
Because
after 14 years.
I'm the chief executive of Fair Wages. There are certain things that are not under my control, and I will not speak to deadlines that are not within my control. But the communication I have is that it is something that government is keen, is very much interested in the review. And I'm sure we'll commit ourselves, because we ourselves, it's not everything I can put out here. We believe that there are some areas that we need to really, reconstruct to transform some situations. And I'm sure one of the areas that we have been very keen, and we are also very optimistic, waiting patiently that it will be part of the new pay policy, is to be able to have strong measures to link pay to productivity.
How are you hoping to do that? It's been an age-old approach, yet we are yet to get some clarity or some finality or some workability on it.
Oh, as we speak, the president ordered that Fair Wages and Public Services Commission should work together to ensure that this comes to fruition. There's been a national committee set up. There's been a technical committee set up. They'll be able to do their work, produce the report and the rest. We'll be able to get the PSE to review its manual to speak to performance, linking certain aspects to pay. The engagement is ongoing, and I'm sure when they're done, it will come to the entire public and the public sector workers for us to sit again. All the committees have public sector workers representation. So at the end of the day, when it comes, it will be a national discourse. Once it's firmed up that this is the way to go, we are good to go, that it should be implemented. And not only that, the performance instrument for PSE has also been reviewed, and there's a digital platform being created to ensure that organizations, apart from just setting goals, we index it to the national goals. Not only the heads of institutions will have their contracts signed with their outputs, indicators indexed to the organizational mandate and national goals, then it trickles down to the very last person.
Right.
So that when we measure your performance, it speaks to our national targets. We have put all these things in place, but of course, it will take quite some time for us to firm it up and get it fully implemented. And so there's a heavy work.
And then the issue of payroll audit that this exercise you started some time back, you saved the government some amount of money. What is the update on it?
Well, the update on the payroll monitoring is that it is when people hear us on the street that they think we are doing payroll monitoring. No. Fair Wages has a unit headed by a deputy director called Payroll Monitoring Unit. So for us, it's a day-to-day activity
that you do.
Apart from the field monitoring that we do, apart from that, any engagement that we do, for example, when management comes to us that they want us to review their salary structure, we want to go into detail to know exactly what you are collecting and what you are not collecting, what is wrong and what is not wrong. So it's something that we do. If there, for example, you have been appointed as a new chief executive for one of the public sector institutions, and PSE makes rise to us to make a recommendation as to your conditions of service.
Right.
Obviously, it gives us the opportunity to go deep into what your organization has been offering in times past and what is being done currently. So for us, it's something that we continuously do, but it's yielding positive results. And I'm
the
glad.
matter of the ghost names, few months we were able to recover over 10 million. What is the status of it?
10 million was even a very small
at the initial stages.
Yes, this year,
few days into it, we recovered over 10 million.
I must also commend Controller and Accountant General. I must be very kind to them on this because they have been very cooperative. And not only that, the internal audit agency has also been very supportive. And then the whistleblowers.
And of course, the special prosecutor also disappointed.
I rise up for them. Sincerely, the whistleblowers have been very helpful. Issues that could not come to the notice of fair wages, through the whistleblowers, were able to do so. What has come to happen now is that increasingly, people are beginning to know that, look, there's somebody sitting somewhere
and watching
you. You know, the savings are huge, but we believe
how much are we talking about?
The last time that we did the estimate, I think that was in August, it was about 348 or so. I've forgotten the exact, but it was 348. And the
348 million cedis.
The cascading
money
effect,
that obviously would have gone into the hands of people that were not working.
Yes. The cascading effect, which was so beautiful, was what Smith was also doing by weeding out, you know,
the same individuals
the same individuals and more
scheme.
And they also made a huge savings, you know. So we are freeing the space. Of course, there are some people who were also entitled to some benefits
that they were not getting, that through the payroll monitoring, we were able to detect and we were able to, you know, resolve these matters. So it's very helpful. So how many people have been taken off the payroll that were there illegally?
You know, I don't want to go into details, because what we do basically, I've given you the figure, but what I don't want to do here is that for the institutions that we detected some, and I call them anomalies because I can't read the intent. So I can only call it anomalies. What we have done is that we parcel all the names and all the details to management for management to take action. It is only when management fails to take action that we are emboldened to go the extra mile of reporting to some other authority. Unfortunately, we don't have prosecutorial powers, so we are not able to go to certain lengths. But if it comes to making recommendations for you to refund, which is our interest, our interest is to recover anything that you've taken wrongfully and to seize it. That's our first interest. So once that is coming back to the government coffers, we are good to go. It's your insistence of continuously doing it that will land you at the courts of law.
And you are absolutely certain that in some few weeks, months, or years to come, our payroll will be rid of illegal names?
It will be, and beyond that, not just illegal names. When you are inactive and nobody knows where you are, you will be deactivated. So it's not just the ghost people. For example, if the digital platform being developed is fully operational, linked to pay, what it means is that if you decide that on your own, you leave work, you are not on leave, you are not on sick leave, you have not traveled to go and study with permission, and on your own, you have decided that you are sleeping at home, and for a number of days, you are not reporting to work. Nobody knows your whereabouts. It will deactivate your pay.
That we are all waiting to see. But clearly, these things cannot be done by the individuals alone. Obviously, you are people who've made it their duty to recruit people as ghosts and then take the salary in their names.
There is a book called The Economics of War. We have a similar situation in every sphere that I have recounted. There are beneficiaries.
Of course.
But we are not looking at the beneficiaries. We are looking at the true people who must benefit. You see, what the payroll continuously assures us of is that when we take away pay from those who are not deserving of it and free a space, those who actually do the work can be given more and be appreciated for the work they do. So it's not to deprive people of their pay. It's to recognize the effort of those who are really doing the work.
All right. Is that your final words as we go?
My final words is to my colleagues who are civil servants and who are local government service staff. My appeal to them is that we have a nation to build. It should not be our intent that we want to disrupt the activities of government or of this nation. We should all work together. Dialogue is the way forward. Whichever our feelings, whatever we feel, whatever our grievances, it will take us to sit as equal partners at the workplace to have a dialogue in order for us to have a resolution. So I'm appealing to my colleagues to call off their strike and continue to engage, because a good substance, the best of outcomes, is from constructive engagement and not from one partner sitting on the fence waiting that the other partner should do something.
All right. Mr. Ben Atta is the CEO of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, CLOGSAG. They've made it clear that they went back on a strike action on Thursday because of what they claim to be government's not, speeding up the process for them to agree on some salary structure. Now, the Fair Wages Commission is hoping that the Labour Commission will intervene in this matter tomorrow. We'll follow this matter and bring you the latest. We'll take a short break here on the pulse. When we return, we'll have more. Welcome back to the pulse here on Joy. Now let's do some education stories. The minister in charge, Dr. Yawase Aduchum, has announced plans to make senior high school education compulsory under the free SHS bill yet to be introduced in Parliament. If passed, the bill will require all eligible students to complete senior secondary education, making a significant step towards universal access to secondary education. Dr. Yawase Aduchum says the move is to boost literacy rates and bridge educational gaps across the country. He spoke at the National Tertiary Education Conference at the University of Ghana.
You look at junior high school transition rate in Ghana today, last year, the just ended academic year. 95% of students in the northern region move on to junior high school to high school. 94% of students in the northeast and Savannah moved on from junior high school to high school. 92% of students in Upper East moved on from junior high school to high school. Upper West, 89%. That is the lowest in the north. 89% of the students who were eligible and who had been offered spaces moved on from junior high school to high school. But the lowest in the north is higher than the rate of any of the regions in the south. There's a growing trend here where there's a widening gap between the north and the south in terms of participation in secondary education. The north, all the regions together, are ahead of the whole country. Voter rate is the lowest, 76%. So nearly 20% difference between the north and voter rate. If this trend continues, the next 20 years we have to do an affirmative action to support the south. Central region is about 78%. Ashanti and Accra, Greater Accra, 87%. But when you dive deep to the districts within Ashanti, you're going to realize that places like Adansia, Sokwa will give you about 65%. 65% means there's a 30% disparity between the north and that particular district in terms of moving up into secondary education space. So if you heard about the bill in Parliament about the free secondary education bill, the goal is to ensure that we create a free, compulsory, universal secondary education regime in Ghana. It's a very important aspect of the bill. That it will not be something that children who are not 18 have a choice in, saying that I'm not going to secondary school and I'm going to stay at home.
Of course, now I can take you to your election headquarters. The flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Bawumia, has announced plans to create jobs and boost the Ghanaian economy with his Buy Ghana First policy if he's elected as president. The vice president, who is currently touring the Ashanti region, said his administration will prioritize the purchase of locally made goods and services to create jobs and stimulate economic growth. According to Dr. Bawumia, the Buy Ghana First policy will be enforced through the passage of laws and regulations that will make it mandatory for government agencies and institutions to purchase locally made goods and services to reduce the country's trade deficit and also increase revenue.
Buy Ghana first policy. Buy Ghana first. Adia obai Betobia, yen shishem no Ghana mo first before I am thinking about importing it. Because then we are out of full position. Bibia yepese yeto yekokra. But Kranwa, Ejumano, Omemono Enye Jumaye. So last they call factory was Japan. Now omo ye school uniforms. Now omo kai them say first now omo nya contract here, but say ye craft from China. Eti omo ni Jumaye. Now me say we is a wrong policy. Me be samarano me the law eba buy Ghana first. Eti yebetono ha na ye tailors anye juma aye for the school uniforms and all of that. Eti the government beto, whether it's furniture, whether it's uniforms, whether it's electrical cable, BBR yebesheno first in Ghana, and then if it's any Ghana they are waiting to Accra. That ewa hadia yebeto from here, and we will build our capacity and our jobs.
Again, the Vice President, during his engagement with the clergy in the Ashanti region, also promised to classify churches and the Islamic institutions as development partners who will benefit from tax incentives.
Churches and the Islamic institutions. The churches build a lot of schools, a lot of hospitals. Islamic institutions, schools all the time. But donations no fees are being lie, nobody here Abrofui Bagana, see Omobeye hospital, and answer school. Materials via Omodi you can't even say Mobi development partners, Mamutia duty. And yes, sir, but church and answer Islamic institution, it is materials no air bar, yes, it could be a duty. Maybe we are going to classify all the churches and the Islamic institutions as development partners, entitled to the same incentives. Ayadema Abrofi will give the churches and the Islamic institutions the same incentives.
So from the NPP, let me take you to the camp of the NDC. The presidential candidate, John Dramani Mahama, has criticized the governing NPP for what he describes as a silent accumulation of debts in Ghana's energy sector, which he says has led to a new form of doomsday. Speaking during his campaign tour in the Oti region, he accused the NPP of planning to pass this financial burden to the next government. However, he assured that a future NDC government under his leadership has capable people ready to tackle the energy debt and stabilize the sector. Let me go live to my colleague, Maswell Agbagba, who is traveling with the NDC presidential candidate. So, Maswell, is there two, if you like, of the two of the Oti region? Tell us, bring it up to speed on what we've missed so far. So, before I bring in Maswell, the former president has been speaking to the people of Oti about his plans for the elections.
Omu kremu kakra so mu nim say NDC na eba na dumso a omu de aba no dumso foforo omu de aba yi na omu apia ahye NDC so menemu ka say enfidia especially nya omu free.
What they are doing is managing the debt little by little, knowing that the NDC will be the next government so they can hand over the burden to us. Currently, they owe nearly $2 billion to foreign investors in the energy sector. Their goal is to delay repayment until January 7, when they expect the new NDC government to take on the debt. But I urge Ghanaians not to lose hope. When we assume office, we'll reveal the full scope of the debt and address it. We have the men and women capable of solving this issue to bring relief to Ghanaians.
NDC no credit for. Na your money memma ye betimi asom na asiesie na aye ne yie se ne be ya Ghana for ho beton mo.
Right, so let me bring in Maswell Agbaba, my colleague who is traveling with the NDC flag bearer Dr. John Dramani Mahama. So Maswell, you are still in the OT region. How are they receiving the message of the NDC flag bearer?
Well, many of them are about promises from the NDC flag bearer and presidential candidate John Mahama. Many of them are excited about the massive infrastructural development that he is promising. Every constituency that we've visited since yesterday, he promised the people that the NDC government would ensure that put in place infrastructure.
We're back on the show. This is the pause. Remember that the U.S. election voting will end at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. for the West and the East Coast, respectively. That will be midnight and 2 a.m. Ghana time. Now, here on Joy News at exactly midnight, my colleague Blessed Soga will lead our coverage of the aftermath of the voting in the United States of America with guests and from, guests, experts on elections in the U.S. We'll also be speaking to Ghanaians who are domiciled in the U.S., those with documentation and those undocumented. And the question is, what will the presidency of Kamala or Trump mean for them going forward? You don't want to miss it out, because that will be the time you will get to know who will lead the United States of America for the next 4 years. And that is from midnight all the way till 6 a.m. Now, before we go, though, one of the leaders of the Ken Must Go movement, the Member of Parliament for Subin, Eugene Boachi MP, says President Akufo-Addo acted unreasonably by keeping former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta at post for that long. It will be recalled that in 2020, about 90 NPP MPs in an unprecedented move called for the dismissal of Ken Ofori-Atta at the height of the country's economic crisis. In this interview with my colleague Kweku Asante, the Subin MP reflects on their decision and the fate they suffered. And that interview is coming your way pretty shortly. But there's more stories on myjoyonline.com. The Attorney General is talking about how his office has managed to save the country $9 billion to arbitral claims in the last 4 years, plus other compelling stories on myjoyonline.com. Whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. My name is Elton Brobe. Same time tomorrow, I will and my team be here to bring another exciting edition of the Pulse. But for now, though, my colleague Kweku Asante engages with the Subin MP, Eugene Entry. Have a good evening.
It's been a couple of parliamentary meetings now. Really bold NPP MPs raised concerns about the then Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and his handling of the economy. They asked for the president to dismiss him. The president at the time did not listen to them. The president acted several months later. And some have said the damage was already done. Ken Ofori-Atta is no longer the Minister for Finance, but some have said the damage at the ministry continue to plague this economy. One of the central persons who led this NPP MP, something that the then majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, described as the collective position of the caucus, is the MP for Subin, Honorable Eugene Boachi Entry, and we are privileged to be sitting with him here today to brood over some of those issues and some of the concerns that have come up since then. Honorable, I know a lot was said about these Ken Must Go and other things. Looking back now and all what we know, what were the key considerations that led you and your colleagues to take up this fight?
First of all, let me say good morning to your viewers or listeners. I think that point has been delivered. I'll just go straight for the benefit of the campaign. There's a lot of apathy, in our strongholds, and that is why I agreed to do this interview to, first of all, apologize to Ghanaians, to apologize to the party folk, and tell them to all get out there and work hard for Dr. Bawumia to win the upcoming general elections. There were a lot of concerns. The cedi had lost its value against the major trading currencies. After a strong first term performance of the NPP, the second term was totally different. In the sense that, I mean, if you're a keen observer of Parliament, I know you are, you know that in the first term, the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, was in the chamber anytime the Finance Minister was going through the budget. But have you observed that it's different in the second term?
Yes.
So I know for a fact that there was a lot of cooperation and collaboration in the preparation of the budget in the first term, right? Where the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, was chairing the UMT and was, you know, and with other stakeholders, the Trade Minister, the Energy, all those ministers that formed the UMT, and you could tell that all their inputs were fed into the budget. Yes. But the second time, it became a one-man show. And that is what led us through our leadership to go and tell the president or ask the president that he should grant us audience for us to come and meet him and discuss these economic difficulties that were engulfing the nation with the president. The feedback we got was that the president was not ready to meet us. And then we felt that the Ghanaian people who represent, who have given us the opportunity to represent them, must know that we, the MPs, or some of the MPs, do not agree with the president for the continued tenure of Ken Ofori-Atta at the Finance Ministry. We felt he was becoming a problem, both for the party, for the government, and for the country. And I say country because the country counts for it. Without Ghana, there will be no NPP, there will be no NDC. So everything I'm doing as politicians must be directed towards the nation Ghana.
So why did you take that bold decision to lead? Because there was substantial risk you could face, including your parliamentary primaries that was to come. What led you to take that bold decision? Well,
I think the reason why this question has been asked so many times, but I just couldn't, it's not in my nature to sit and watch our great party and our great country being destroyed by one man, Ken Ofori-Atta as the finance minister. And with all the solid human resources available in the party, I also didn't see why the president couldn't change Ken Ofori-Atta to replace him with another NPP person, or even another family member of his, if he so desired. So that is what led me to break free and damn the consequences.
Because you were one of the key persons who supported the coup.
I actually led it.
Yes.
I actually led it. I led it because I felt that Ghana needed a break from Ken. Ken had done his bit as a finance minister. No doubt I have to give him the credit for winning us off the IMF in 2018, right? And all the rest of it. But I think beyond that, towards the latter part of the first term, it went downhill from there, and we couldn't recover. And it's intransigence of not wanting to go to IMF also compounded the economic issues in the country. And I'm sure that is why we were where we were when, basically, virtually 2 years to the day, when we had the president. It was November 2022.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's an anniversary for us, yes. But we've made our position to the party, to the government, to the nation that some of us were not comfortable with Ken Ofori-Atta continuing as the finance minister under the coup second term.
There are those who have said that Ken Ofori-Atta may have undermined some key projects that were being done.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Let me talk about it. This party is bigger. It's bigger than any individual, family, or grouping. That is the point that must be made. We all go out there to campaign. I campaigned as a parliamentary candidate to be elected as a member of parliament. The president campaigned as a presidential candidate to be elected a president. So we owe it a duty to the people who elected us into the country to ensure that at all given time we do what is right by the Ghanaian people. We're in a situation where people think that you become so arrogant with power and you are not listening to the people, because that was the mood of the country at the time, that we're not listening. And the president was touring the country, praising his ministers. But the evidence out there, or the feedback out there, was that rather the president was speaking against the mood of the nation. And that is what I believe led to the Ken must go and other matters.
Okay, so I was asking you about some projects, because under Ken Ofori-Atta, we were told that a lot of projects suffered because he was undermining those projects, or he was not actually collaborating with other sector ministers, releasing funds and other things. As a sitting member of parliament on the NPP ticket and as an insider within the party, is that true? And
well, I would like to say that vindication lies in the womb of time. And NPP is since a party of achievers and innovators. NPP, I would say all the major social interventions under this fourth Republican Constitution were or have been initiated by the NPP administration. So some of us felt that certain projects, like you rightly said, I mean, if you look at the Manasseh book, I think it details a number of them. PDS, Ameri, domestic debt exchange program, Eurobonds, COVID funds, name it. Yeah. They are all there. So it's not me. Yeah. That is what is out there, that these were some of the projects that, or initiatives that Ken either collapsed or undermined, especially with the PDS. When the president gave the Ministry of Finance the role to superintend over that transaction. In the end, we are back to square. Look at the inefficiencies with ECG, and look at what is going on with the ECG. We led to the resignation of this MD a few weeks ago. So these were some of the issues that concerned us. And clearly we could also see that the vice president's role as the chair of the economic management team had been reduced to virtually nothing. Because in the second term, in the 2021 budget, where the finance minister came and told Ghanaians that he was going to rely on two revenue streams. The two revenue streams were, one, the electronic tax levy, that's popularly known as the e-levy, and then the property rate, right? Clearly, the vice president has spoken against the imposition of e-levy on the ordinary Ghanaian. So you can see, and we recently, when after the vice president was elected by the NPP, his speech at UPS, where he said he was going to reverse the e-levy tax. So clearly you could see that it wasn't part of the decision making. And as chair of the EMT and his position as vice chair, as the vice president, clearly all the key observers within the party and without could see that it had become a one-man show by Ken Ofori-Atta. And that has led us to where we are, because people say, oh, you guys were touting Bawumia's economic credentials and what have you. Why are we where we are? But the question remains, and must be answered, that if you go back to the first term and look at the significant progress that we've made, and also the presence of the vice president at the plenary, anytime the budget was being read, attest to the fact that he was part of the first term budget decision making. But the second term, he's been conspicuously absent, meaning that they are not involved in, or there were major disagreements, so they decided to cut him off. Nobody knows, but clearly that is the picture out there. And I'm of the firm belief that we have, based on that, Ghanaians must tell or reward Dr. Bawumia by saying that we understand your issues, though you are the vice president, but we understand your issues. We understand the difficulties you had with the former finance minister, but we believe that if you are given the nod to become the vice president, to become the president, and take full charge of the economy, Ghanaians will begin to see the kind of things that you were saying or promising pre-2016 So I think that's what I can say.
Said, I mean, that means clearly that even though the vice president was hailed as an economic messiah, some of the conduct of Ken did inhibit him. But there's a new finance minister. So would you then say that there's close collaboration between the two,
of course,
which is leading to certain improvements in the economy?
Of course. Now you can see there's a rebound. I mean, all that creating agencies, Moody, the name, I think Moody was the last one that I saw. They've upgraded Ghana from stable to positive, right? The external debt negotiation too has been going on well.
Yeah.
So you see, that was the point we were trying to make to the president. That once there's a change of face, and once there's a new face, and people felt that, look, let's give this guy a chance, that could have a domino effect on the economy. But hey, at the time they didn't see. But look at, Amin came in 2024 February.
Yeah, February.
Yes, and we can all tell that the news that we are all receiving is good news for the NPP going into the election, because one, I always say, elections in this country are determined by two key things, and the economy is one of them. You know, when President Kufuor said in 2000, he was sitting about what is sitting, meaning the economy.
Yeah.
Right? If your city is stable, if prices are well controlled, low inflation, low interest rate, and things like that, people that will engender enthusiasm for the business community to come in and, you know, open up businesses and employ people and what have you. So I think that's what
things have been moving well. I mean,
yes, you can clearly see that there's synergy.
Yeah.
You can clearly see that the collaboration and the cooperation has gone up a notch higher, and definitely there's a breath of fresh air. You know, around the finance, the finance team,
and the economic management team.
And you can see that it's impacting, you know, albeit late, but it's impacting on the economy.
Yeah. Honorable Eugene Boakye is making the point that if the president had listened to them and made the changes earlier, perhaps the economy would do much better. He insists that there's much synergy between the new finance minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So Honorable Eugene Boakye has been detailing some of the inside details that we have not really been abreast of in particular. I mean, given what you've spoken about, how bad did this relationship break down between the vice president and the finance minister? Clearly the finance minister refusing to listen to the economic management team, the head. How bad did that affect the economy? And things are beginning to shape up now. Clearly, there's great synergy between the vice president and the new finance minister.
I think you just have to look at the disposition of the finance minister. He has nothing but arrant disrespect for everybody. He hardly sits in cabinet. He hardly sits here. Even when it's come to present his own budget, for him to sit.
Ken Ofori-Atta was not sitting in cabinet. When the decisions were being taken, where was he?
He hardly sits, as he, I choose my words carefully. Yeah. He hardly sits. Yes. And even, you can look at Parliament, the way he treats Parliament.
Yeah.
Because you present your budget according to the standing orders, you must sit through all the discussions.
Yeah.
But he only comes to read the budget to us.
Then he leaves, the deputies take over.
You don't get to see him till maybe at the appropriation stage. And the work of the finance minister for the last 8 years, to any well-meaning Ghanaian or keen observer of parliamentary politics, who will attest to the fact that has been done by Honorable Abena Osei MP for Etiwa.
And now Minister of State.
Etiwa is a now Minister of State of the Finance Ministry. So clearly you can tell that he treats everybody with utter disrespect and contempt. From his cabinet colleagues, the NPP members of Parliament, whose toil made him a finance minister. I mean, the way he even treats Parliament. How many times has the Speaker sat in the chair and asked for Ken Ofori-Atta to be invited to come in and sit in? How many times has our opponents, the NDC, the minority side, said to the country that if he doesn't show, we're not going to approve the budget? You've heard that chorus time and time again. So I don't know why sometimes you media guys, the right questions that you must ask, or the people that you must channel these questions to, you don't when you get to see them.
Yeah. I mean,
I think the impression he gave to the country was that, apart from him, nobody within the NPP could handle the finance ministry. I don't, that's the perception he gave.
But some will say that the president endorsed that.
Well, he's the president's cousin. What do you expect? He's the president's cousin. Yeah. Do you expect the president to say his cousin was a non-performing minister, even if he knew that he was a non-performing minister?
Are there certain decisions and policies that Ken Ofori-Atta took that you know of without consulting the vice president as head of economic management team to get a synergy together?
I think the electronic tax levy was one of them. Yeah. Clearly, why would the vice president sit in a meeting to agree to a policy like the electronic tax levy, popularly known as the e-levy, and then turn around a few years down the line and say, look, you know what? If I become president of this country, I'll reverse that because it's an obnoxious tax.
And then, in fact, prior to that,
let me tell you something.
It was against that.
One, the introduction of that obnoxious tax did intolerable damage to our electoral fortunes in 2021, and that is why the vice president has said categorically that he's going to reverse it. Because how do you tax a poor man standing by the roadside selling snails, whose probably disposable income at the end of the month will be less than 1,000 cedis? So
I get the sense that some of you are opposed to that, but you wanted to give him the chance, you wanted to give him what he wanted because your side fought for it. You wanted to give him something. If he believed that that is what would change the fortunes of the economy, you give him that. And if he didn't, that is why you called for his head.
That was a very sad day for our democracy and for our country. The reason why I say so is that after fighting tooth and nail in the chamber to get the e-levy passed, you know, some of our colleagues even got injured in the process, these fisticuffs and what have you. When the president failed to relieve Ken Ofori-Atta of his position, I think at that stage, every well-meaning Ghanaian concluded that the president was a very unreasonable person. Because your own parliamentarians are saying to you, the people who went and campaign in the nook and crannies of this country for you to become president. I say to Mr. President, with all due respect, this particular person continue stay at the finance ministry will not inure to our electoral fortune in 2024. So do something about it. And you took a certain posture and kept him there for another year and more. Well, the press conference was November 2022. Ken Ofori-Atta left the Ministry of Finance in February 2024. What is he sitting there doing? So clearly, you could see that the president didn't want to, lead him.
I mean, clearly things are beginning to turn for the positive now. Inflation is on a downward spiral. It's just around 20% from Ken Ofori-Atta's time when it's about 54% and all that. So there's clearly a synergy between the minister and the vice president. If the vice president is elected president, you're sure that things will even get better and things will improve much better if the vice president comes with his own ideas and with his own team?
No, it's not the ideas. The party is elected on the manifesto.
Yeah.
That's the vision of the leader. So once you're elected on the manifesto, nobody is saying 100% go and complete all the promises in the manifesto. But at least you try and achieve about 50, 65, right? And you know what saddens me? I got up at dawn a few weeks ago and I grabbed a copy of our 2016 manifesto. And I said to myself, why are we struggling to win this election? Because if you had gone with 2016 manifesto, this party would have won power back to back for 16 continuous years. Clearly because of our policies and the interventions that we had in there, right? Especially like the $1 million equivalent for every constituency. And those were
one dam, one district, one factory.
Those were game changers. Okay. Right? It never happened in our country, right? Giving a member of parliament $1 million equivalent in cedis
to develop the constituency
and develop their own constituency, choose the needy projects and develop them. And what happened after the first term? We dropped it. Why? Because the economy was in comatose. And we were in self-denial. Yeah. Ken Ofori-Atta was in self-denial. And that led to where we are today. Because in 2020, when COVID struck, that was a perfect opportunity for Ken to have said to Mr. President, you know what? I think I'm tired. Let's try a fresh face or a fresh hand. And that will probably have sent a very positive signal to our donor partners. But that didn't happen. So sometimes there's this 250 million coming through for your energy sector. The money will be hitting your account in September. The next minute, the money arrives in January. So clearly, there was a lack of trust. Trust had broken down. The book felt that, look, with this guy still there, we cannot trust him to move this economy. And these are some of the projects that we are saying. Now you can see clearly that the EMT is meeting. All the various stakeholders are participating, and their inputs, right, have a rebound on the economy. And NPP can now go into this election clearly saying, look, you know what, you just turned the corner. When Kanofuata was saying the
corner has been turned, it hasn't.
I think it was in his own world that he was living in. I don't know whichever world he was living in at the time. But clearly you can see the economy has turned the corner now because of the indices that are coming up.
In fact, recently Fitch and Moody's and others, they have upgraded Ghana's status. I mean, with the benefit of
if all this can be done between February and now, then if
it was done between
if a new minister had replaced him, say in January 2023, right? NPP will be singing,
singing hallelujah. I mean, you know the president very well. With the benefit of hindsight, do you think he regrets not having taken off Ken Ofori-Atta a longer period than he did in February 2024, given what you now describe as the cohesion that exists within government now, the cabinet, and also at the party level? Do you suspect that the president might be regretting not having changed his cousin, the finance minister?
No doubt. I mean, you know the president. I've told you that he failed to act at the time, and a lot of Ghanaians, a lot of well-meaning Ghanaians felt that the president was very unreasonable. As clear for everyone that he was unreasonable. Because you're a Democrat, you are working people from your own party, not the NDC who are telling them, look, Mr. President is a problem. If the president, I don't know whether it's pride or ego, but if the president had called us and said, look, what is it that you guys have with Kanofuata, would have probably have sat him down and enumerated the kind of deals or initiatives or policies that he had collapsed or undermined as a finance minister. Ghana would have been a different place today. You understand? But because he failed to do that, it sent a wrong signal. Right? Because you see, politics is Jojo. It's about talking. It's about getting to see what the other person is saying, or what the other person is thinking. If you fail to meet and come to a point of convergence, then you get, everybody moving in other directions. And that is what was happening under Ken Ofori-Atta's tenure at the finance ministry. Once he was moved, there's like a breath of fresh air. Now, the foreign partners or donor partners are looking favorably at us. Our domestic debt exchange program too has gone down. Yeah, it's a pain for somebody to lose money. But at least if an explanation comes, or if Ghanaians feel that, look, at least his MP spoke, he listened to them, Ken is no more. Now we can see that the Bawumia that we touted as the economic wizard or messiah or guru or name it, is now in charge of economic policy formulation and in charge of putting the budget together and what have you with the economic management team. I'm sure that the last 2 years, Ghana would have seen a different place. Everybody could tell that Bawumia had been cut off.
Yeah. So I mean that brings me to this question.
Yes, the president, I believe, deeply regrets that he made his cousin stay at that ministry for that length of time.
I mean, so the point you are emphasizing is that the vice president's qualities, particularly in the second term, could not come out simply because he was not being given the room to operate by the likes of Ken Ofori-Atta, who are leading the fiscal and economic policies of the executive. Is that a point that you are making?
Yes, that's the point I'm making. Also, I'm reliably informed that when he got to a stage where even when the vice president was looking for Ken Ofori-Atta, he had to go physically to the finance minister to look for him.
No, you are not serious.
Yes, that's
the vice president.
I'm reliably informed. So it shows you the dictatorial tendencies in Ken Ofori-Atta and how he managed the finance ministry. So you see, if people want us to come out and say the things that we know, We are still members of this party now, right? We've been part of the executive. And I can assure you that a lot of Ghanaians at the time couldn't wait to see the back of Kenofurata. It's only the president and a few people around his circle that wanted Kenofurata to remain. And the reason why they wanted Kenofurata to still continue as a finance minister is best left with them.
You said that the vice president had to descend from Jubilee House or from wherever and go to the
I am reliably
informed.
Right. That when I got to a stage where when the vice president wanted to see him, because I'm sure he was playing hide and seek with them. So when he wanted to see him, he had to go all the way to the finance ministry and knock on doors for him to see Kenofurata. I'm reliably informed. Okay,
then that suggests, and in fact, people have pointed out that Kenofurata did not treat his cabinet colleagues with respect. And in fact, it has been referenced in other interviews that he disrespected some of them.
I've told you. He's always in white. He's the first finance minister that has more Bible quotations to his name than even pastors in this country. But that's his nature. He's always in white. Soft-spoken. But that's the Kenofurata at play.
Right, yeah. I mean, interesting views really that have come up.
So
really
let me also
details.
say something, to
yeah, definitely. We are not there yet. I'll come to that. Because of this raging controversy, I'll come back for you to give us your closing remarks. The Speaker of Parliament has declared 4 seats vacant. 3 of them your colleagues, which has made you a minority MP as you speak here.
I'm not too sure about that till the Supreme Court speaks.
You still insist you're a majority?
I am. I came in and I was sworn in as a member of the majority caucus. Until the Supreme Court so determines, I'm still a member of Parliament on the majority side.
Do you think that your party has lost the plot in terms of being able to bring you all together? Because some of these your colleagues, Cynthia Morrison, these are very affable, amiable, reasonable people. Kojo Asante.
This question,
how can the party deal with these issues?
Let me help you. When you openly discuss these matters, they talk about bitterness and what have you. But can we continue in this vein as a political party? Where I'm sure that the national chairman or any person from the National Executive Committee has even placed a call to Cynthia Morrison.
She said in an interview to us that no one has called her.
They only did so when she decided that she was going to run as an independent candidate. Right? What about our younger friend from
Kojo
Asante from Suhum? So you can clearly say that NPP is in a state of paralysis.
There's a political scientist that has said that if almost all of your other colleagues who didn't win their primaries decided because of the bitterness and how the party had treated them, a lot more of you will probably be running as independent. But some of you have decided that maybe because of the bigger interest of the party and all that.
You see, what I would say is that by running as an independent, you give those people the pleasure.
Yeah.
The party doesn't belong to them.
Yeah.
How can I sit here? My father went to detention in 1964 because of this tradition. Why should I leave this party because of somebody? And why should I be bitter? I've served a 2-term as a member of parliament. I've served as a deputy minister. Out of 33 million Ghanaians. Why should I be bitter? Ghanaians are just something else. They don't want to hear the truth. That's the problem with Ghana. When somebody is messing your economy, when somebody is driving your state into a failed state, you sit back and say somebody is bitter. Why am I bitter? Yeah. Today, I can grab my passport and go back to the United Kingdom to live. Yes. Why should I be bitter? But I want to see a developed Ghana. And nobody can drive me out of this party, because this party is the very vehicle that has given everybody, or made us all of us who we are. Yeah. And I told you, we broke from the shackles that certain people were, the intimidation, right, and the bullying. Right? We took it elsewhere. Nobody can bully us. But let me tell you something before we wrap up.
Yes.
A clear apology to all well-meaning Ghanaians and NPP supporters, members, sympathizers, and what have you. It's a blip. Yes, we've learned, or all of us have learned about the disappointments and the inability or the state of paralysis that the party finds itself, because the party cannot move without taking a decision from somewhere else. But we will build our party. We are just hoping and praying that we win the December elections and we'll build our party from there. Those people will be history. This tradition will be better off without the likes of Ken Ofori-Atta and Gabby Asarochi back home.
Thank you very much for granting us this exclusive where a lot of issues have come up, particularly within the New Patriotic Party. How Ken Ofori-Atta did not listen to some of the advice that were offered by the Vice President, touted as the economic messiah to lead Ghana. And now things are getting better. We all admit the inflation has been on a downward spiral. Mr. Eugene Boakye entry here tells us that it's because of the synergy that exists between Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And going into the 2024 election, if the Ghanaian people give the NPP the opportunity to lead, then things will even get much better. Thank you very much for watching. As always, this is Joy News, your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. We'll bring you stimulating interviews.